Welcome in. Happy Tuesday, Parker and Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star, and HuskerExtra.com. Nice shirt, Sipple.
Thank you.
We just heard from both coordinators, a couple assistant coaches, a couple players. Pretty interesting stuff today as Nebraska gets ready for Michigan. This is 4 downs, the 4 most interesting things we heard today. Number 1, Sipple, Aiden Hutchinson. Matt Lubick said he's the best defensive player Nebraska's seen on tape so far this year.
Yeah, he's impressive for sure. What gets your attention right away is he's 6'6", 265. So he's kind of got that Grant Wistrom size. He's kind of reminds me of Wistrom, actually. He's long. He's the type of guy that can use a bull rush and get a big arm in there or go around a tackle. He'll drop in coverage a little bit. He's really athletic. I think he's got 5.5 sacks. Pretty good through 5 games. I had 68 tackles last year. He's very active. So, yeah. And I think Parker, this is the best defense Nebraska will have faced. Would you say would be Oklahoma would be close?
Probably, yeah. They're similar probably in terms of the athleticism. Overall, Aiden Hutchinson was a freshman in 2018, forced a safety against Adrian Martinez in that blowout in Michigan State. He's been doing it a long time. Number 2, speaking of freshmen, Thomas Fidone, freshman tight end for Nebraska, has been cleared to resume football activities. He's back at practice this week. You're not going to see him play this week or anything like that. Fidone tore his ACL in April. Frost has said they're not, and Sean Beckton said last week, they're not going to play him in more than 4 games this year as he comes back from that knee injury. But if you look at the calendar, Purdue at this month is sort of that starts the last 4 games of the year. That would be this week, next week, bye week, and then into Purdue week. So the plan, I guess, toward getting Fidone ready, and they're deep at tight end, so who knows how much he plays down the stretch, but he's on the track now toward maybe being back in the mix down the stretch of the season.
Adding to the weaponry.
Speaking of weaponry, number 3, Sipple, Nebraska sort of found a new one or got to a new one on Saturday in Jacquez Yant.
Yeah, I mean, Yant, it's interesting. It feels like he kind of came out of nowhere. You know, the narrative is, and what Scott said was he had to lose 30 pounds. I think Scott said 25 today. It went to 30. It's
losing weight fast.
Yeah, he had to lose a lot of weight. But he's also, he had to learn a little bit. But, I mean, I think you'll continue to see him as long as he continues to practice well. And Lubick said he runs low, good pad level. I like the way he held onto the ball, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very intent on ball security.
Did you see him switch it on the long one? He switched it to his left when he crossed the field?
Yeah, he did. He switched it. And I also noticed he got pissed off when he didn't get in the end zone. He was literally angry as he was being drug out of bounds inside the 5 or at the 5, which was a great sight. You could tell he was mad.
You could keep talking about Yant. We could talk about Yant all day, probably.
Go ahead.
Number 4, Barrett Root talked about his linebacker today. Yeah, he had a funny line about Luke Reimer, who's obviously playing pretty well. Someone said, Luke's got his hands on a couple of tip passes and all that. He's been around the ball a lot recently. And Barrett smiled and said, he hasn't caught any of them either, has he? So that's
want those.
No matter how well you're playing, especially on defense, they haven't forced many turnovers. That could be a key against Michigan. He said when you get a tip pass, overthrow, got to come down with it. That's the sort of thing that, that's even the next step now for a linebacking core that otherwise is playing pretty darn well. That's the 4 most interesting things we heard today for Sipple and Parker. Thanks for watching.